Soft, quiet voice echoed from deep inside my belly. Don't leave, Mom. He's going to make it back. I froze, then turned around to look at the man who was on the verge of a total breakdown. He was sitting in the middle of the living room, his designer suit wrinkled into a hopeless mess, his tie hanging loosely around his neck. In his hand, he clutched a bottle of sleeping pills. His eyes were completely hollow. I let go of my suitcase. I'm pregnant, I said, my voice steady. Do you want this baby? His pupils contracted violently. The pill bottle slipped from his fingers. When Liam had told me to get out, he hadn't even looked up. The coffee table was a disaster of paperwork, foreclosure notices, and asset freezing orders stamped in harsh red ink. I stood at the bedroom doorway, holding the handle of my suitcase. Did you hear me? His voice was raw, scraped down to nothing. The company is gone. The money is gone. Even this apartment won't be mine by next month. What are you still standing there for? I didn't answer. It had been 3 years. I had been with Liam for 3 years, starting back when he was at the top of the world. People on the outside called me Liam's girl. Some said it politely, calling me his muse or his companion. Others were cruel, calling me his kept woman. I never argued with either label. But tonight, when he told me to leave, I accepted that too. I dragged my suitcase toward the foyer, the sharp click of my heels echoing off the hardwood floor. But just as my hand brushed the brass doorknob, that voice echoed in my mind. Mom, don't leave. I stiffened, my hand freezing on the metal. The voice spoke again, soft and sweet like a toddler, yet carrying a weight no child should have. He will build it all back. If you leave now, we lose everything. I slowly looked down at my stomach. It was perfectly flat. Nothing showed. My period was late last month, but I had brushed it off as stress. Mom, I'm serious. I turned back around. Liam was still on the couch, but his posture had changed. He was staring at a white plastic bottle of sleeping pills in his hand. The cap was already off. He looked like a wire spun so tight it was about to snap. My heart hammered against my ribs. I let go of the suitcase handle, letting it clatter to the floor, and walked back over to him. One step at a time. He looked up, his focus blurred. Why are you still here? I knelt in front of him, bringing our eyes to the same level. I'm pregnant. 3 words. Liam's eyes widened in sheer shock. What? I'm pregnant, I repeated. Do you want this child? The bottle slipped from his hand, rolling under the coffee table. White pills scattered across the floor like spilled beads. He parted his lips, but no sound came out. I reached out, swept the chaotic mess of bankruptcy papers to one side of the table, and sat opposite him. Liam, listen to me, I said. Right now, you feel like the sky is falling. You think it's over. He didn't answer, but his eyes welled with a sudden, heavy moisture. I don't know anything about corporate finance, I continued, but I know this. If you die, it really is over. As long as you're alive, there's a chance. He stared at me for a long time, so long that I thought he might order me out a second time. Then he spoke, his voice dry and fragile. Why aren't you running away? Because of the baby, I said. He closed his eyes, letting his head fall back against the sofa cushions. After a long silence, he muttered, I can't afford to raise a child. I know. The bank is taking this place next month. I know. I don't even have $5,000 to my name right now. I have savings, I said. It's not a fortune, but it will keep us afloat for 3 months. His eyes snapped open. You saved money? I'm not stupid, I said, looking him dead in the eye. Every month you gave me an allowance. I spent half and saved the rest. It's been 3 years. It adds up. His face twisted into a complex knot of surprise, embarrassment, and something softer that he couldn't quite hide. You stayed with me for 3 years just to hoard cash? I stayed with you for 3 years because I wanted to. I saved the cash because I'm practical. He went silent. The apartment was so quiet I could hear the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. The voice in my stomach piped up again. Mom did the right thing. He needs you now. Shut up, I thought back. I need some peace. And the voice actually went quiet. I got up, went to the kitchen, and poured him a glass of water. I set it down in front of him. Drink. Then clean up the pills on the floor. I wiped my hands on my jeans. Tomorrow, I'll look for a cheaper place. We'll move before the end of the month. If you still want to end your life after that, I won't stop you. But at least wait until I give birth, okay? Liam picked up the glass. He stared at the trembling surface of the water for a long time. Then he took a sip. That was enough. Living people need water. The day we moved, it was pouring. Liam stood in the rain, soaked to the bone, lifting the last cardboard box into the back of a rented U-Haul. The apartment I found was on the south side, in an old, weathered brick building. 6th floor, no elevator. It was a modest 2-bedroom that smelled faintly of old pine, renting for $1,500 a month. He stood at the threshold of our new home, staring at the peeling wallpaper and the rusted window frames, his face devoid of expression. I dragged our suitcases inside and grabbed a microfiber cloth to start wiping down the kitchen counter. "Don't just stand there. Help me." He stepped inside, looking entirely out of place in the cramped living room. In his past life, he owned a penthouse overlooking the river, over 3,000 square feet of glass and steel. Here, he could practically touch both walls if he stretched out his arms. "Kitchen is on the left, bathroom is on the right," I directed. "You take the back bedroom. I'll take the front one near the hallway." "Why do you get the front one?" "Because I have to use the bathroom 3 times a night." He paused, a flicker of worry crossing his eyes. "The pregnancy symptoms are starting?"
Yeah.
"I threw up this morning." A strange emotion passed over his face, his lips parting slightly, but he ultimately remained silent. For the first 2 weeks, our coexistence was clumsy. He didn't initiate conversations, and I didn't push him. He spent his days locked in his room, making hushed phone calls that grew shorter and more desperate until they stopped altogether. I knew he was trying to secure a loan, but news of a bankruptcy travels faster than light. The people who used to flatter him were suddenly impossible to reach. One night, I got up to get a glass of water and saw him sitting on the tiny balcony, smoking. A small pile of ash lay at his feet. I placed a glass of warm water on the ledge near his hand and turned to leave. "Flora," he said suddenly. I stopped. It was the first time in 3 years he had used my actual name. Before, he had called me his little bird, or simply didn't use a name at all. "Do you regret it?" "Regret what?" "Not walking out that door." I leaned against the balcony frame. "Do you regret not taking those pills?" He fell silent. "If you don't, then don't ask stupid questions." I walked back to my room and closed the door. Lying in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, the voice in my stomach whispered, "Mom, Dad got a phone call today. Someone wants to buy his old commercial lot on the East End for dirt cheap." I adjusted my pillow. "Is that land important?" "Very. The zoning permits are clean and fully approved. It's going to be worth millions. Dad can't sell it." "How do you know this?" "I just do." The child's voice always felt surreal, like a dream I couldn't quite wake up from. But the first 2 times it had been right. It kept Liam alive, and it had stopped him from selling his car to a predatory dealer who tried to lowball him. So this time I chose to believe it. The next morning, Liam was on the phone in the living room. I stood by the stove, stirring oatmeal, listening closely. "Thomas, I know you're trying to help, but let me think about the East End lot." Whatever the person on the other end said made Liam frown. "I'm not being ungrateful. It's just that price is too low." The voice on the line was loud enough that I could hear the agitated tone from the kitchen. Liam's jaw clenched, his knuckles whitening around his phone. He was on the verge of breaking. I walked out with the bowl of oatmeal and set it on the table. "Eat first." He covered the receiver with his hand, looking up at me. "The oatmeal will get cold," I said calmly. "The phone call can wait." He hesitated for a few seconds, then spoke into the receiver. "Let me think it over, Thomas. I'll call you back." He hung up. I sat down opposite him. "Don't sell that land." He blinked. How do you know about that?" "I overheard." I lied smoothly, picking up my spoon. "You mentioned it back when things were good. You said the zoning for the East End was a gold mine, and that once the transit line expanded, the value would skyrocket. Selling it now is basically giving it away." He looked at me, his gaze shifting. It wasn't the look he used to give a beautiful ornament on his arm. He was looking at me as an equal. "You remember that?" "I remember everything you say." He lowered his head and took a bite of the oatmeal. "Flora." "Yeah. Thank you." I didn't reply, but the little voice in my stomach giggled. "Mom is the best." I rolled my eyes mentally, but a tiny smile slipped onto my face. Just when I thought we were finding a rhythm on the weekend of our 3rd week, someone knocked on the door. I went to answer it. Standing on the landing was a woman. She had long, flowing hair, wore a pristine white linen dress, and held a bag of fresh peaches. She had a perfectly manicured, sympathetic smile. "Hi," she said, her voice like honey. "Is Liam here?" In my belly, the baby whispered, "Mom, This woman is bad news. Her name was Melanie. She was Liam's ex-girlfriend. To be precise, she was the girl he loved before he made his fortune. They had dated in college and split right after graduation. Rumor had it she left because he was broke back then. Liam had never told me these details. Melanie volunteered them herself. She sat on our mismatched, squeaky armchair, arranging the peaches on our scratched coffee table like she was performing a charitable act. "I heard about what happened," she said softly, her eyes swimming with concern. "I've been wanting to visit, but I was worried I'd be intruding." Liam sat across from her, his posture stiff. "How did you find this place?" "It took some asking around," Melanie said, offering a sad little smile. "You're old friends." "Well, it's heartbreaking how quickly people disappear when things get tough. No one wanted to give me your address." As she spoke, her eyes flicked to me. Just a quick, assessing glance, but I caught it. She was sizing me up from my messy bun down to my bare feet, and finally, my waistline. "And who is this?" she asked Liam. Liam opened his mouth, but he hesitated. That 1-second pause spoke volumes. So, I answered for him. "I'm Flora. I live here." Melanie nodded, her smile never wavering. "Nice to meet you, Flora." She turned back to Liam, falling easily into the tone of an old, reliable friend. "I'm working as an administrator at an investment firm now. It's not a massive salary, but it's stable. If you're short on cash, I can lend you some to get by." "No," Liam said, shaking his head. "I'll manage." "Don't be stubborn," Melanie urged, her brow furrowing in a display of pure, unselfish worry. "We've known each other for a decade. You don't have to put up a front with me." Liam didn't know what to say. I set a glass of water down in front of her. "Thank you," she said, taking a delicate sip. Then she looked back at me. "So, Flora, are you Liam's?" She left the sentence hanging, waiting for me to fill in the blank. Any answer would be awkward. Girlfriend? We never had that talk. Roommate? Too clinical. Housekeeper? Obviously not. "I'm the mother of his child," I said. Melanie's hand froze on her glass. Liam snapped his head to look at me, surprised. "A baby?" Melanie blinked, her smile faltering for a fraction of a second. "You're expecting?" "Just past the first trimester." "Oh," she said, her voice pitching slightly higher. "Congratulations." "That's wonderful." She said congratulations, but her eyes said something else entirely. There was no warmth, and there wasn't even the awkwardness of an ex discovering new baggage. There was calculation. I made a mental note of it. Melanie stayed for about 40 minutes. Before she left, she reached out and squeezed Liam's hand. "Call me if you need anything. Don't carry this all on your own." Liam nodded. Once the door clicked shut, I started putting the peaches in the fridge. Liam stood by the window, watching her walk down to the street. "You guys go way back?" I asked. "A lifetime ago." "Why did she come?" "Just checking in, I guess." I didn't press further, but the voice in my stomach said, "Mom, I don't like her." "Doesn't matter if we like her," I replied in my mind. "Your dad seems to. Her scent is wrong." "What do you mean, her scent?" "I don't know. Just wrong." I didn't argue with the fetus, but my own gut agreed. An ex-girlfriend from years ago suddenly materializing at a man's absolute lowest point, bearing organic fruit, a sweet smile, and perfect empathy. It was too clean. It felt rehearsed. The next day, Melanie returned. This time, she brought a homemade chicken pot pie. "I made extra," she said, standing at the door still wearing her work clothes, looking like she had rushed over straight from the office. "You both need to eat well." Liam took the dish, thanking her. She came in and stayed for over an hour, swapping stories with Liam about their college days, their old landlord, the cheap diner they used to frequent, their mutual friends. I watched Liam's shoulders gradually lose their tension. He hadn't talked like this in weeks. With me, our conversations were limited to, can we pay the utility bill? And should we sell the car? With Melanie, he got to remember a time when he was young, poor, and happy. I sat in the corner, a ghost in my own apartment. When Melanie got up to leave, she passed by me and lowered her voice. "Make sure you rest, Flora. Let me know if I can help take some of the load off your shoulders." She called me Flora, but her tone felt patronizingly maternal. I just smiled and said nothing. After she left, Liam was at the sink, washing the pie dish. I leaned against the kitchen doorframe. "Liam." "Yeah." "What do you make of Melanie showing up like this?" His hands paused in the soapy water. "She's just an old friend, Flora. Don't overthink it." "I'm not overthinking. I'm asking you, He turned around, wiping his hands on a dish towel. What are you trying to say? I'm saying that in your position, you shouldn't be letting people know exactly where you live. He sighed, his brow furrowing. Are you jealous? Do you honestly think I have the luxury of jealousy right now? He stared at me, then looked away. I turned and went to my room. The baby whispered, "Don't be mad, Mom. Dad's brain isn't working right now." "I'm not mad," I whispered. "Your heart is beating fast. That's because I walked up 6 flights of stairs today." The baby didn't argue, but I knew he didn't believe me. By her 3rd visit, Melanie brought flowers, white lilies in a simple glass vase. She said she bought them on a whim. Liam set them on the living room windowsill, right where my favorite coffee mug usually sat. I moved my mug to the kitchen counter and kept my mouth shut. That week, she came by 4 times. She brought something every time, stayed for hours, and always managed to whisper a few private words to Liam before leaving. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I saw the change in Liam. He was smiling again. Not the tense, forced smile he gave me, but a genuine, light-hearted laugh that reached his eyes. I'll admit, seeing that made my chest tighten. But I had no right to complain. Liam and I had never been a love story. He paid the bills. I provided companionship. It had been a transaction for 3 years. Now that the transaction was broken, I was only here because of the baby. On Thursday night, I was cooking dinner when their voices drifted from the living room. "Liam," Melanie was saying, "have you considered that Thomas might actually be your best option?" My hand stopped mid-chop. Thomas. I knew that name. He was Liam's former business partner who had pulled his capital out of the firm right before the collapse, leaving Liam to take the fall. Liam hated him with a passion, but he couldn't touch him legally. Thomas's exit had been entirely compliant with the fine print of their contract. Why the hell would I talk to Thomas? Liam's voice hardened. "I'm just saying, maybe you should hear him out," Melanie said softly. "He has cash on hand right now. If you swallow your pride and make peace, he might be willing to reinvest in your projects." How do you know he has cash? "I hear things." "From whom?" Melanie laughed softly. "I work at an investment firm, Liam. People talk." A heavy silence followed. "I'm not begging him," Liam said. "I know, but given your situation, how much is pride really worth right now?" It was a sharp, direct blow, almost crossing a line. I walked into the living room, holding a plate of chicken. "Dinner's ready." Melanie looked at me and smiled warmly. "That smells amazing, Flora." "You're welcome to stay and eat," I offered. "Oh, no, I should get going." She stood up, grabbing her designer bag, but paused at the door. "Think about what I said, Liam. Don't let pride get in the way of survival." Once the door closed, I sat down to eat. Liam sat opposite me, poking at his rice with his fork. "What do you think about what she said?" he asked quietly. "About what?" "Reaching out to Thomas." I took a bite of vegetables. "You don't want to go to him. Why are you asking me?" I put my fork down. "My perspective is that you should figure out how Melanie knows so much about Thomas's financial situation." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "She claims she's an administrative assistant. Since when do admins get access to high-level client liquidity details?" Liam paused, looking slightly taken back. "You're reading too much into it." "Maybe," I said, picking up my fork again. "Eat your dinner." He didn't say another word. That night, as I lay in the dark, the baby spoke. "Mom, she was lying today." "I know. She didn't hear things from colleagues. She knows Thomas personally." I rolled over. "How can you be sure?" "I can feel it." When she said his name, her heart rate didn't spike or flutter. When someone mentions a stranger they only heard about, their body reacts differently than when they mention someone they are intimate with. The next morning, the air in the apartment was thick with unspoken tension. Liam was already dressed in his one remaining good suit jacket, pacing the small living room while staring at his phone. "Melanie set up a meeting," he said as I walked out of my room. He didn't look at me. "Just a casual coffee with Thomas. No commitments, Flora. Just listening." In my mind, the baby scoffed. "Listening to a trap, more like." "Mom, tell him if he goes. He's handing Thomas the keys to our future." "If you go, you're showing him your weakness," I said, pouring myself a glass of milk. "Thomas wants that East End lot. If he didn't, Melanie wouldn't have brought him up 4 times in a single evening." Liam stopped pacing, his jaw tightening. "You don't understand the corporate world, Flora. Sometimes you have to sit with your enemies to figure out their next move. And sometimes you sit with them because you're desperate enough to believe their lies," I replied coldly. Before he could answer, his phone rang. It was Melanie, confirming the location. Liam gave me a conflicted look, grabbed his coat, and walked out the door. The heavy click of the deadbolt felt like a countdown. "Mom, we have to go," the baby's voice urged, sharper than usual. "They're meeting at the bistro on 4th Street. If Dad signs the preliminary intent to sell form today, it triggers an automatic transfer clause. He doesn't know Thomas altered the zoning filing deadlines." I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my purse, threw on a trench coat, and headed down the 6 flights of stairs. When I arrived at the bistro, I spotted them through the glass window. Liam was sitting on one side, looking defensive but exhausted. Opposite him sat Thomas, sleek, arrogant, and wearing a watch that cost more than our new apartment's annual rent. Melanie sat right beside Thomas,